It's quite easy, I would say. And no, man, people are going to hate me for that. I can't say that.
I might leave that in and just... What's up, everybody? How's it going? Today, I'm joined by one of my very good friends, Rachit Jain. He's another software engineering YouTuber, and actually one of my very first YouTube videos on this channel was a collaboration with Rachit. We're doing another collaboration today. This is a two-part video, one part on his channel, the other part here. In both videos, we're basically comparing India, which is where Rachit is from, to the US as far as software engineering is concerned. So on his channel, we addressed a lot of things related to compensation and comparing FANG versus startups, all of that good stuff. And on this video, we're going to compare the types of backgrounds that candidates need to get into software engineering jobs, either in India or in the US. So we're going to talk about college degrees, computer science degrees, coding boot camps, all of that good stuff, with a little bonus at the end where I'm going to ask Rachit to educate me on some India memes.
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right, so the first thing that I wanted to ask you, Rachit, was how important is having a computer science degree in India to get into a software engineering job? This is something that I'm very passionate about because, as you know, I don't have a computer science degree. I went to a coding boot camp, so I'm curious how it is in India.
Yeah, so talking about my example, I'm also not from computer science and I didn't go to coding boot camp either. So from my college, I was from IIT Roorkee, and it's a very good college in India. Like IIT is a very good brand over there, and we'll talk about that a bit later in this video. But I was in a good college and I was well educated enough to know that a lot of FANG companies are going to visit my campus. So all I have to do is beat the competition in my campus. I knew this upfront and I always prepared for that. That if I'm really good at data structures and algorithms, then I can really be in a good FANG company. And that's something which I already knew because I was communicating with my seniors. So once you know that, I made sure that I'm preparing like really good enough so that I can be really easy, like I can easily solve the coding interview problems. And that's my whole YouTube channel, which is dedicated to. So make sure to check that out. And over here, I mean, if you're asking me to say algoexpert.io and use the coupon Clem, that's not going to happen. So you have to use the coupon Rachit. This guy has been cutting off my affiliate sales.
Shameless plug.
This has to stop. Anyways, so yeah.
Wait, quick. So wait, two things, Rachit. So first of all, very important point. If you do want to prepare for your coding interviews and your data structures and algorithms, do check out algoexpert.io, and you can use the promo code that you want, Clem or Rachit. It'll be your choice as the viewer. But one question is, if you didn't have a computer science background, how did you learn coding? And what was like your degree?
Yeah, so I'm from electrical engineering. And what I would say is if you have even 6 months or close to 1 year, that's like the branch doesn't matter. In college, you have so much of time. Most of you are living away from your family, right? So you are on your own.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of time, and I would definitely ask you to invest this time in data structures and algorithms because let's face it, when you are graduating from college, the best way that companies are using to judge you or test your skills is based on your problem solving and data structure and algorithms. I'm talking in terms of university graduates. So if you spend even 6 months or close to 1 year, it's enough for you. And trust me, you should do it when you are in college, while you are in college, because once you graduate and you start, let's say, as a software engineer in a startup and it's not your dream company, what do you think? You will stay over there forever? No, you will switch very soon again. And there is nothing which is stopping you from applying to different companies to reach out to different potential job opportunities within your area. At that point of time, you will again start interviewing. Probably you have 6 months of experience or close to 1 year or 2 years. And when you're again doing that switch, you will again be judged on your data structure and algorithm skills. And if you talk about FANG, if that's your dream, no matter how much experience you have, 3 years, 4 years, they will still ask you data structure and algorithm skills. And I have seen that once you are a software engineer, it's a bit difficult to get started with data structure, algorithms, and how to use Dijkstra and what is VFS. So it might get a bit difficult to learn that later on. You have less motivation. So when you're in college, I would definitely ask you to prepare for data structures and algorithms. 6 months or close to 1 year is more than enough to be really good and to achieve that level that you can crack coding interviews.
So it's interesting. So it sounds like you're saying that like you don't need a computer science degree. Like in India, it is not a requirement, right?
Yeah, but other than that, there is a CGPA criteria or grade point criteria. That's something which you should really focus at. So if you are, let's say, from mechanical engineering and you watch this YouTube video and then you say like, you know what, I don't need to deal with mechanical engineering. and I will just prepare for coding interviews. That might not turn out really good. And there are two reasons for that. First of all, you might not be even able to sit for your dream company when it visits your campus. All right. So that's
Right.
the first flaw in that. So you have to like dedicate a little bit amount of time for preparing for your academics and maintain a good CGPA over there.
Okay, so it sounds like in India there are some very like rigorous set in stone criteria for who gets interviewed where and all of that.
Yeah, so if you talk about my case, I was not allowed to sit for Microsoft internship just because I was not from computer science. At that point of time, Microsoft did not open for for people other than computer science students.
So how did you get your interviews at Microsoft?
Yeah, so I'm talking about the internship. But in the next year, I don't know what happened. But they allowed other students as well to sit into their placement. So I was hired on campus in Microsoft interviews.
Interesting. Yeah, I do get the sense that in India it's more like rigorous. There's more process involved in how companies hire from colleges. I mean, don't get me wrong, in the US, big tech companies and startups definitely hire from, US colleges, but it sounds like in India it's a little bit more like rigorous. I guess this brings me to the next point about the coding bootcamp. You said you didn't attend a coding bootcamp, but are coding bootcamps a thing in India? I know that there's Scalar Academy, there are a few other companies. Like, are they popular now or no?
All right. So, yeah, this is something which, like, I know that this trend started from US, but now I have seen that a lot of companies are implementing that in India.
Yeah.
Are they good? I'm not sure. But I believe that there are many companies in India which have dedicated themselves to the world of programming and educating students on how to be a better programmer, learn these data structure, algorithm skills, and all the good stuff for preparing for coding interviews. So I have seen there are a lot of companies which have been doing that. They might be doing this in an offline mode, like doing personal coaching or a group batch coaching. So they have been doing that. But this model of basically doing a coding bootcamp in which there are generally like they will educate you for free for 6 months full time. So you can't do it remotely. You leave your job, or if you are in your college, you have that 6 months. If it's in your same location, you can probably attend that. But this is full-time thing in which they will educate you for 6 months. And if they are able to get you a job, let's say bigger than a threshold, then for the next few years, you will be giving a percentage cut of your salary to them. So that's one model that I've seen. It's really picking up in India. And the other model is where you pay an upfront fee, but then once you get a job, you don't have to pay anything because you have already paid.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to the US. Like in the US, it's you've got upfront fees. That's what I did with no attachment afterwards. And now you've got these up and coming, income share agreements where if you get placed, then you pay a percentage of your salary, and usually you'll end up paying more. But you had far less risk at the beginning.
Yeah, that's how the business model works. But I have seen that even though this is like coming up in India, you at the same time you need people to adapt to it. And I wouldn't say that it's quite there yet. India is not quite there yet. I have seen that there is a lot of negative posts from students who opted for such coding boot camps, but it really didn't work out good for them.
Interesting.
And like for example, I think the mistake that these coding bootcamps they made for India is probably they really made advertisements based on they referring you to FAANG companies, all right? And what eventually happens is that these students who they hire, they are pretty smart because they don't just take any student. You have to meet a certain criteria. Only then you get entered into their coding bootcamp. So the people they hire, they are already smart. And in India, of course, you can find a lot of smart people. Like the population is really good. So even if you find a batch of, let's say 100, 200 students who are really smart, I have seen a lot of students were able to get a FAANG job from themselves by taking use of their external network or something. And then they get into this conflict that we got a job on our own basis. So why we should pay you and all those things. Like I would say that this is still flourishing, and it will take some time for the Indian companies as well as the Indian audience to adapt to it.
Right. It's like, why would you pay 30% of your first year's salary when the only reason you got into Google is because you used Algo Expert, right?
Yeah.
But okay, so that's interesting. So this brings me to one other question I wanted to ask you about like institutions in India. I see this a lot on LinkedIn. The whole like IIT, tier 3 college, whatever that means. I'm very curious, like how important or how big of an emphasis is placed in India on the prestige of the university that you attend, and how like prestigious is IIT?
All right. So like I have made a lot of videos talking about all these things, like what I would have done if I was from a tier 3 college. So make sure that you go to my YouTube channel and check that out. I have covered a lot of topics in a like great amount of depth. But to summarize over here, what I would say is tier 3 colleges, yeah, there is this thing in India wherein there are separate like batches of colleges or separate buckets in which we put in colleges. For example, in US, I think Harvard is very well known for. I think Stanford also. So these colleges really have good value over there. Similarly, in India, we have IITs, and we have IITs in different states. And there are top 5 IITs which really have a very huge brand. Other than that, there are new IITs which are coming up. They are probably not that prestigious right now, but the government is doing their best to promote good education. But if you talk about the brand value, I mean, if you talk from the perspective of parents, like they are really crazy about their sending their kid to an IIT. They really want that to happen.
Parents, because let's be honest, parents, yes, parents want to be proud and they want to brag about their kids, but parents don't know anything. Like if we're talking about companies, do companies actually care about like whether or not you come from IIT?
Yeah, so Clement, of course they will care at like up to a certain point. When let's say you're hiring for your company and you are trying to open an office in India, what you want is to reduce the cost of hiring people. At the same time, you want really quality engineers, right? That's what any business wants. Now, if you have such a great population and you want to like skim through the best cream of it, and at the same time you don't want to pay much. So first of all, India is already not like if you talk about companies from US, if they're trying to hire in India, the cost is really low, first of all, right? So what I have seen is they want to hire really good talented software engineers, and they are ready to pay a little bit high price for that. So I have seen that companies, what they do, they generally pay more to IITians as compared to people from different colleges. Even if you talk about same company, even especially in FANG, I have seen that there are few FANG companies which pay more to IITians. They have a different job level at which IITians are hired as compared to people from tier 3 colleges. So they might be hired at, in terms of Microsoft terminology, I have seen that few FANG companies do not pay really that well, and they do not give like the starting graduate position which they give to people from other good colleges. But at the same time, it's very small subset that I have seen. So there can be, so these are 3 buckets. I have seen that like students of tier 3 colleges, a lot of tier 3 colleges are getting good salary, comparable salaries and similar salary. Only few colleges are there which, and you can say that the business is making different decisions. They are hiring for different roles from different colleges. You can say something like that. It's not that they are doing any racism, because I can talk about Microsoft, for example. Like in my team, there were only 2 IITians when I joined, and like it was something like the culture was nothing about giving preference to someone. It's just that during the hiring, it might happen like when you're coming out of college. But once you are into a firm, there is no inequality or discrimination based on which college you represent or come from. And even when you are hiring for senior levels or not university graduates, at that point of time also, I have not seen that there is any negotiation power that comes to your hand if you are from a good college. It all depends on how you perform during that coding interviews and what is that job level, because every job level is having a range of how much salary you can expect. So it depends on those 2 things: your performance in interviews and what is the job level which you're targeting.
Yeah, and I think in the US it's similar, but I feel like in India it seems like there's a little bit more emphasis on the prestige. In the US, yes, if you come from Harvard as an undergrad CS student, for example, you might have an advantage just because it's a good way to filter you out. If you come from Harvard and you have a good GPA, then you are likely, worthy of interviewing. But we are seeing more and more now in the US a move away from that. Like, first of all, a lot of the big tech companies like Google, Apple, and all that have announced that they no longer care about a college degree. So you don't have to have a college degree to get into them anymore. CS degree, definitely not, since you see people coming from boot camps, even with humanities degrees. And personally, if I can give my Clement opinion, I think that now, especially with the pandemic, I think that in the next few years, the importance of college and where you've gone to college is going to plummet. And like in 5-10 years, going to Harvard is no longer going to be even like remotely as important as other things, because now you're gonna have people who are like 18 years old, fresh out of high school, who go to a coding boot camp and get the skills that they need to actually be, useful on the job by the time they're just out of high school, and they're going to be much more competitive than someone who went to take Zoom classes at Harvard. That's my guess, over the next like 5-10 years.
Yeah, so basically I was talking on the grounds of that companies do not discriminate on the basis of college. They might do this thing that if a college graduate gets a level 59, like in terms of Microsoft, if they hire a university graduate, they are hired at level 59. That's the starting. But it might happen that if you are going to some other college, like tier 3 college, it might happen that you are hired for a different role, which is level 56 or 57. So because of that,
Right.
it might happen that the salary compensations are different, but it's not based on college. It's about the job role. It was different. That's why the paying compensation is different. And then it's the firm's decision to decide for which level they want to hire from which college. But having
Right.
said that, there are few companies I have seen, I have seen few startups as well, that they really care about hiring only IITians or people from good colleges. Not sure how they would, like it's their business decision, but yeah, there are few companies which only hire from really good colleges only.
I think that at this point, a lot of companies and most people just in the world are realizing that if you only limit yourself to hiring people from the best colleges like IITs or Harvard, you're limiting your pool of potential talent. And just because someone doesn't go to IIT or doesn't go to Harvard doesn't mean that they're not talented. In fact, they might be super talented, but for N reasons, they just didn't go to Harvard or didn't go to IIT.
Correct. And one thing which I totally resonate with that, and talking on the same grounds, I really feel bad if you just, like, if there were two people, one was fortunate enough to get into good college at some X point in their life. It should not be the only criteria to justify their success throughout their life. It was one opportunity, they performed well in that. If you talk about people from tier 3 colleges, they were not in a good shape at that point of time that they were able to get into good colleges, but you cannot limit themselves to what they can do or what their creative minds can do in future. So that's just one opportunity during college transition that they were not able to really perform well in that. But that has nothing to do with what you have to do with your life. It's your life, it's your future, it's your time. You can do whatever you want in that. And if you are from tier 3 colleges, there are two advices which I generally give. If your dream companies are not visiting your campus, then at that point of time, you should do the job of making yourself a brand and easy for recruiters to trust your to trust your skills. So I would recommend you to be really active on GitHub and have a good profile or good projects that you can easily throw in your resume. Like, here is the source code, here is the demo. You can check my skills. So at that point of time, you should spend time in building your story that communicates your skills easily, because no one has the time to know you personally. So you need a good resume and good brand to convince people about your skills. If you're not from good colleges, this is something you should definitely work really upon. Like, you should not just frown and that feel that I'm not from good college, the dream company is not going to visit, so I can't do. You should start doing things instead of just procrastinating and cribbing about.
Yeah, and in the US, I would recommend that anybody, regardless of what college you're at, do that and work on projects, work on portfolios, work on real skills. And then just to your point about, how the college you go to should not dictate your entire life. In the US in software engineering, that's definitely like not the case. Basically, after your very first job, nobody really cares about where you went to school. And even at your first job, like I said, it might just give you a small edge if you went to Harvard, for example. But then in the interview, it's all about your interview performance. But then once you're on the job, or once you're going for your second job, your third job, nobody's going to care about where you went to school. They're only going to care about your skills. But so that was super interesting, Rachit. Thanks so much for sharing like all this stuff about India. Now I want to end the video on a fun note by asking you about this one meme that I see that I think is India specific. Basically, I see this on almost like every other post on LinkedIn from someone who's based in India. And as you know, I have a big audience on LinkedIn from India. I'm connected to a lot of people from India. But so I see so many posts where people are mimicking like a conversation or a funny scenario, and they use the name Simran as like the character in their scenario. Is that like a thing in India? And if yes, like, what is it?
All right, so I know, like I've not been really in direct communication with this guy, but there is this person known as Akshay Saini. He works in Uber, and
Yeah, that's he always posts Simran. I always see that.
yeah, it's funny story. So he was like, he's really active on LinkedIn and he has a good following over there. And when he is communicating with his audience on LinkedIn, he started this notion of using Simran as a dummy person of sharing the interview knowledge and the do's and don'ts in interview knowledge. And from there, it became so probably trendy that you can see a lot of the Indian audience that you have on LinkedIn is also sharing that. It's
So he started it?
yeah, I mean, he only started it as a like normal conversations on LinkedIn that he's having with his audience. Like, just to give you an example that Simran did this and you should not be doing that. It started like that.
Right. But Simran is a real like Indian name.
Yeah, Simran is a real Indian name of a girl. Yeah.
I feel bad for the people who are named Simran then, because then they're always like mocked on these LinkedIn posts.
No, but I didn't think that it's quite big a thing in India. I mean, I have never heard that. I know that his posts are very viral, but I have never encountered someone talking about that with.
Maybe it's because like I'm an American, right? And I up until like 2 years ago, I never really had much connection with India. And then suddenly, 3 years ago, I start my company Algo Expert and I get into software engineering. And now I started the YouTube channel and I'm like surrounded by people from India. Like there's just such a huge, like Indian audience and Indian customer base for Algo Expert and all that. So like I'm seeing all of these pockets of
Exactly.
I guess like
Yeah,
things,
because
on
because your
LinkedIn and all
company
that.
is because your company is also in the same grounds of interviewing, hiring, getting hired, and all those things. So you have a
Exactly.
very huge amount of like you will have good number of mutual connections that you have with Akshay Saini. So probably that's why you are seeing
Yeah.
that quite more.
So that's probably that's probably why I'm thinking that
Yeah,
that's
but I
like
can
representative
understand.
of like
Yeah, I can understand when you are from
India meme
US
culture.
and you can't understand what's going on. Who is this? You need to know.
Who is Simran? Okay, well, thank you for clarifying, Rachit. And with that, I hope that you all enjoyed the video. Go check out the one that we made on Rachit's channel. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on LinkedIn if you'd like to see short form written content, on Twitter as well, Instagram for pictures, and otherwise I will see you in the next video.
You can subscribe to me also.
Yes, subscribe to Rachit.
All right.